Let's take a look at how to recognize, how you're outgrowing your software and how you should upgrade and some recommendations on how to cut the costs on doing that by going in and kind of answering the 6 classic questions of who, why, what, where, what, and how.
First of all, who? Well, anyone that feels that they've outgrown, right, their GP software, or that are using it, as an engineering professor of mine used to say, suboptimally. And what I mean by that is we have run into a fair share of GP implementations that were looking for upgrades and to get out of their software, but really what they needed was the right ISV solution to kind of round out their, to round out their application, or maybe do a bit of a tweaking on their install, or maybe just have industry-specific expertise to allow them to use their software correctly. So to us, everything's not a, oh my God, you got to get out of that GP and move up to the next, best thing. But it's more of a, do you actually need to upgrade because, all the possibilities for optimizing the use of your GP, are not going to get you where you need to be, or have you truly outgrown it and need to, go to that next level? And really why it's all about scalability, right, in our world here. So from a functional standpoint, there are just things that your software is intended, that you need your software to do as a business that a mid-market package will not do, and you have to move to a higher level product such as a D365 F&O, right? So from a functional standpoint, usually you can identify those things very easily. Do you have an entire team that's doing spreadsheet stuff in addition to your, in addition to running your ERP system? Are you having trouble, with all kinds of, reporting, right, and business process flows? So anything functional, that's usually the number one thing that'll break, right? So for example, for a lot of production companies that we run into, they think that ERP stands for Excel runs production because they don't have the functional capabilities within their GP software to do all the things that they need, for example, as a manufacturer in the production side. From a technical standpoint, there's 2 critical things that are really at work here. At the time that Great Plains came to the marketplace, the tools to develop Windows-based tools did not exist, and they literally went out and wrote their own. It's called Dexterity, and Dexterity was kind of a visionary ahead of its time product, and it was a fantastic opportunity, to get to the market first with a revolutionary product. But that was many years ago, and now that product will hold you back. There are no folks out. There's no folks out in college learning Dexterity, and all the people that know Dexterity, right, are getting older. So if there's anything that you need where you truly need to get in under the hood and change fundamental business processes, my guidance here is that Great Plains and the underlying technology, this Dexterity, that's not the place you need to be. The next place is really the hosting side, right? With everybody going into the cloud and hosting these products, Microsoft obviously has done this fantastic job with taking all of their products, making them look the same, run the same, be available, to you in the cloud, and all working nicely together. Now, there are some phenomenal Great Plains partners out there that have taken Great Plains and are hosting it and are integrating it with other Microsoft products. But really, the amount of heavy lifting that they have to do behind the scenes to accomplish, those kinds of things that you can kind of get, off of the shelf with the Microsoft D365 world, it's a completely different world. And so from a technical standpoint, that Dexterity underneath the hood and the ability to natively host this product, Great Plains is not built, GP is not built to be hosted, it's not built to be modified. From a business standpoint, we see a lot of folks where their bank tells them that if they can't close their books faster, they're not going to get that big loan that they're asking for, or they're not going to get their loan renewed. Or we have folks that are, in a mergers, acquisition type of mode, where, the M&A folks or the VC folks or their new partners are telling them, look, guys, we can't sell you, buy you, or you can't do anything. You can't grow as a business without having a real, ERP solution. And so you need to get off what you have now and move up to another place. So we've run into tons of opportunities, where we've seen that happen. And as we mentioned previously, there's literally a partner can stand, in your way because that partner that did a great job for you when you moved from your QuickBooks, when you moved from your QuickBooks over to, the Great Plains, the GP at the time, maybe as an organization, from a scalable, maybe not only doesn't the software scale, but perhaps the partner doesn't scale from a functional, technical, or business standpoint. And that's not unusual, right? So what I've kind of developed over the years is these little signs that tell you that, hey, I might be, be busting at the seams, and I might need to think seriously about upgrading from my GP. And so what I've come up with is a little bit of a rule of thumb called rule of multis. And the list that I'm going to show you in a second, the more rule of multis that you can check off as an organization, the better the chance is that you've outgrown your GP and need to look at, a more of an enterprise type solution. So are you multi-company? So, multi-company often has to do, intercompany types of transactions from a financial standpoint or from an inventory standpoint. And while you can do some of that stuff in Great Plains, the types of transactions that need to be done on a, on a scaling business, on a growing business, you often have to, what I call torture the GP to do it. Multiple lines of business, right? The chances are that the functional footprint of the D365 product line is going to be so much bigger than the GP that if you have different lines of business, different types of business, that you won't need that ISV solution, that that third-party add-on, that customization, et cetera, just because that functional footprint is so large on an enterprise type of package that you can get that functionality without ISV solutions, perhaps even getting another ERP solution. The next one to me, location, currency, and country, to a great degree, those are all very, intertwined, and a lot of times location, currency, and country are the same thing. But as you grow as far as number of locations, number of warehouses, number of places where you have businesses, number of places where you're doing production, right? As you have multiple currencies, as you're in different countries, and you have different languages that you have to, be able to handle, those things, those are multi, they're significantly going to stress and at some point just leave behind your GP software. So for an example, countries, right? In countries, we talk about something called localizations, right? And basically what localizations means is that you're in a situation where you have to adhere to local tax laws, okay? Local laws, local taxes, et cetera. There was a time when your GP product had the ability to actually support multiple countries and some other languages. Microsoft took those off the table because what they wanted to do is they wanted to take the GP and move it into a more of a U.S.-based, single location type of product. And so, that's obviously something, currency, country, language, that if you have any of those issues, you have to think of, moving over. One of the other multis that I see a lot in more sophisticated scaling companies is the concept of dimensions. And dimensional software or ERP software, the two places where it raises its head the most is in dimensional inventory or dimensional financials. So let's take a look at a little example here, okay? Let's say for a second that we are, pardon me for a second, what we are doing as an organization is we are selling T-shirts. So if we're selling T-shirts, in your Great Plains or GP software, that T-shirt would be one inventory item. However, in the real world, anybody that sells T-shirts knows the following. I might sell that T-shirt with 10 different designs on the front, right? Or maybe a lot more than 10 because let's say I have a contract with the NFL and I have the different teams on the front of that T-shirt, right? Let's assume that you're selling that standard T-shirt and it has 10 different designs on the front. And then not only is that an option, right, but you also have the capability of selling that in 10 different sizes and in 10 different colors. The end result of that is in GP or Great Plains, your inventory file will have 10 times 10 times 10 or 1,000 inventory items, okay? Because you have to account for every one of those potential mix and matches of what we call style, size, and color. Now, if you take that inventory file and expand that to those 1,000 inventory items, first of all, there's the maintenance issue. But much more importantly, that has an effect on every single transaction where you then have to do sales analysis, you have to do inventory control, you have to do purchasing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because all those different inventory items, logistically, they're really one, and they need to be able to be combined, and the ability to do that, you know, with a product like a Great Plains just doesn't exist, right? So in a product like the D365, you have dimensional inventory where you would end up with one inventory item, and those style, size, and colors are dimensions behind it where, you know, costs and balance, inventory balances and purchasing requirements and things of that nature, manufacturing requirements, those can all be aggregated behind the scenes. So that's my rule of multis. As I said, the more of those that you can check off, the better the chance is that you are, you know, in a position where you want to upgrade. When do you want to upgrade? Well, here's my question: is the software holding you back from expanding as a business, or are you adding, people to do tasks that the ERP software should be handling just as an aside from processing your daily transactions, right? A great ERP system, if implemented correctly, the processing of transactions on a daily basis, just the ordinary running of your business on a daily basis, what that should do is that should feed all of the information, all of the reporting, all of that information should be available to you quickly and easily, so that what you can do is you can analyze where your business is, where you're making money, where you're not making money, where you need to adjust pricing, who you need to sell more to, et cetera. So the key there is most people take a look at their ERP applications, right, as a cost center, because it's not only does it cost money to hire additional people to work in the spreadsheets and the big chief tablets around their ERP solution, right, but they also, on top of that, right, it's also slowing their business down and hindering from processing transactions and growing, as fast as they want. So if you feel any of those pressures and you go out and see all these different supporting tools around your ERP situation, well, then maybe it is time, to take a serious look at this. Interesting, because we talk mostly about this being a cloud application. Microsoft, makes it very attractive from a price standpoint and from an ease of use standpoint to adopt this software in the cloud. But if for various reasons, there are management reasons or legal reasons that you have to have an on-premise solution, then this new software can be implemented on-premise so that you fully control, the location of the servers and the data, et cetera. So we can do that either way. Now, the big question is an upgrade from from a GP to a Dynamics AX or 365 solution, that can be as traumatic as going from QuickBooks up to GP, right? There's this huge jump. And the question is, how do we do that, right? Because it's expensive, it's time-consuming, and we hear all these horror stories. And in reality, if you take a look, our guidance on how to manage this more successfully turns around these 4 ideas. The first idea is a rapid philosophy for doing implementation, and I want to talk about that a little bit more. For us, a rapid implementation is not a marketing ploy. It's a true philosophy on how we implement. So what are we talking about? If you take a look, at that enterprise level ERP market space, the vast majority of the implementations of that market space look something like this. And what that is the old saying is that a camel is a horse designed by a committee, okay? And not only that, but it's an ugly camel. Because what we end up having, one of the great powers of the D365 Finance and Operations software is that it's incredibly flexible and it has an incredible amount of functionality. So the typical implementation plan goes something like this. The partner will come in and get all the management team together in the organization, and they will have a big think tank session where everybody throws out their ideal scenarios for installing the ideal perfect system, right? And then they'll also throw out all the things that their system has done forever that they have to have in the new system. And then they'll throw out, all the stuff that is so unique and special for their company that they can't possibly upgrade to a new software without having that. And then it becomes a competition as far as who has the best ideas and the most ideas. And by the end of the day, you end up having a huge list that encompasses the perfect system, right? And then you turn around and you throw in the methodologies that are fairly standard in our marketplace. And so, for example, Microsoft uses something called the Sure Step methodology. And if you drill behind every single one of those boxes, there's an incredible amount of activity, an incredible amount of reports, an incredible amount of tools, et cetera, that you can use to successfully implement a project, right? So here's the thing. This tool is a crutch for people that haven't done this often enough, right? And it's to avoid legal trouble, because when the project goes, south, somebody can say, well, we use the Sure Step methodology, right? But the problem is what we've done here is we have wasted an incredible amount of time and effort with designing the perfect system, right? And then using what I consider to be antiquated implementation tools. So why don't we do this instead? Why don't we do the following? Let's think about 2 different ways to get to the same point, okay? I believe that ideally, the first step in implementing an ERP solution is that it should initially do everything that you currently absolutely positively have to have accomplished to run your business successfully. Now, you can get to that point one of 2 ways. The traditional way is that first, twisted, winding kind of path, and that is by designing the perfect system, spending, weeks and months on designing that system, getting everybody's input, and building this grand vision of what that new application is going to be, and then spending 80% of the budget, 150% of the time, and getting to a point where everyone's exhausted, physically, emotionally, from having to go through this process, and you're barely limping along, able to do what you can in the old system. Unfortunately, with enterprise-level systems, and it's not unique to Microsoft, it happens in the SAP world, it happens in the Oracle world, is that people go through these insane implementation plans, and they, way over budget, they're way over time, and they're only getting a fraction of what they thought they were going to get. So our thought process is, let's do away with that tried and, not very true old school technology, methodology of getting things done. And let's figure out what are those key things that tomorrow you would need to run your business, right? What are those key functions? What are those key reports? What are those things? And let's stand those up as quickly as possible. So if we do that, what we've done is instead of designing the perfect system, right? And instead of spending all the time in the design phase, and instead of doing all of this stuff, what we've done is we've got a victory because we've replaced your existing system with the new system, by being able to do all the things you need to do. But now we've spent a fraction of the time, a fraction of the budget, and what we're doing now is because your team and your company is running the system, you're now able to look around and say, oh my gosh, here are all these other things that are available, and I will guarantee you at that point, when you have that initial stable system up and running, and at that point when you have that meeting that says, hey, what do we need to add now? That conversation will be much more enlightened, it'll be a much smaller, and it'll be a much better conversation as opposed to designing the perfect system from scratch, and the end result will be much better. Interestingly enough, Microsoft wants to encourage folks that are in the Great Plains GP world to move on to this product. So, but they don't want to encourage them too much because they realize that if everybody that has outgrown their GP software asked to do it tomorrow, they would be swamped, right? So in a 16-page document in some fine print somewhere, you will find out that if you're currently on maintenance for your GP software, you can get a 40% credit or discount on a new user in this new software. What's interesting about that is, if you remember previously, there are 2 ERP products under that Dynamics family right now. The Finance and Operations, which is an enterprise level platform, and then the Business Central, which is to all intents and purposes a QuickBooks replace today. This credit that Microsoft offers you almost makes the pricing between the 2 products similar, and so you can literally, with your Great Plains install, your GP install, you can literally have pricing that moves you into this new platform, similar to the cost that Microsoft would have you replace your QuickBooks at. Tools. One of the things that we've developed by successfully taking folks from GP to the Dynamics product line are some tools that allow you to do testing and training. So we have scripts, over 100 scripts that mimic, basic fundamental business processes that most people have to undertake. And so what you can do is you can take those and you can lay them onto your system so that you can test and train very quickly and efficiently, once we use data tools to bring your Great Plains data into the D365 environment. The data that you find in GP is fairly common in formats. Some of the GL structures may, differ, but because we have that dimensional capability, we can fit those over into dimensions, or if you have some customizations. But the data tools to extract your data out of GP and then give it to you in a format where you can clean it so that you can start fresh, those tools are pretty nice. And then the ability to get that rapid implementation by having pre-built testing and training scripts so that you can get up and running quickly. That's a great, those are great tools that we bring to the table there. Lastly and leastly, for us, when you take a look at, if you take a look at this marketplace, you've got your GP partners on one side, and you've got your D365 or AX partners on the other side. And typically what you're going to find is your GP partners are not familiar with, don't have the capability, or don't have the willingness, as we spoke about, to take people up to that AX D365 platform. So you have the GP partners on one side. On the other side of the table, you have Microsoft pushing their AX or D365 partners to be bigger, bigger, and bigger, to be going after these, large international, multi-million-dollar deals. And so the focus for those folks is, we've got these huge staffs, we've got all these juniors that we need to trade on, and we need to go out there and put these millions and millions of dollar projects, on the table. So a GP to D365 conversion project for your typical big AX partner becomes an incredibly expensive affair if they even want to handle it, right? And the other thing is, a lot of AX partners don't have deep GP experience the same way we have. So from our standpoint, having done GP to D365 implementations in a cost-effective, rapid implementation, with only senior experienced staff, for us, I think is is critical to be able to do this quickly, efficiently, and in a manner that's cost-effective.
So for my team and myself, I'd like to thank you for watching. And please, I invite you to get in contact with us via email to talk to us either about your current Dynamics GP implementation, or if you're a great candidate, how we would work with you on upgrading to the Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. So thank you again, and we hope to hear from you.